Could you imagine a live show moment slipping so far off script that even the cameras hesitate? Just for a heartbeat, unsure whether to keep rolling or cut to commercial? That's exactly where tonight's broadcast begins. A stage so bright, it exposes every flicker of emotion, every twitch of panic, every spark of confrontation. In this video, we dive into a tense, cinematic recreation of a shocking on-air showdown, one that none of the producers were prepared to handle. The studio floor hums like it's alive. Hundreds of warm lights hang above, glowing with that familiar midday talk show energy, but something underneath it all feels heavier, like the studio is breathing differently today. The audience can't put a finger on it. They just sense a strange electricity in the air. A crackle, a quiet warning. Backstage, Steve Harvey stands with one hand wrapped around a cue card he hasn't actually read yet. His eyes stay fixed on the stage monitor as Behar finishes her pre-segment banter with the panel. She's in rare form, sharp, loud, laughing at her own punchlines, performing with the confidence of someone. The red light above camera, one blinks back on, and the studio returns to that tight, buzzing silence. The kind that doesn't just fill a room, but presses against the walls, swelling with everything left unsaid. Behar straightens her cards with a sharp flick, trying to reset the moment, trying to reclaim the energy she lost before the break. But Steve Harvey sits across from her, like a man who already knows the momentum won't swing back her way. Joy clears her throat. "Welcome back," she says, her voice overly bright, stretched too thin. "We're here with Steve Harvey, and, well, things got a little heated earlier." Steve smiles slightly, not a warm smile, not a cruel one either, just knowing. Joy lifts her chin, as if daring him to challenge her again. "So, Steve," she continues, "before we moved on, you were saying some pretty strong things about how you think I treat people. I'd like to give you a chance to clarify that for the audience." Steve leans into the table a little, lacing his fingers together. "I ain't gotta clarify nothing, Joy. You heard me. Everybody heard me." Joy's eyebrows twitch upward. "Well, that's convenient." "No," Steve replies. "That's honest." The panelists shift uncomfortably, glancing at each other like passengers on a plane that just dipped a little too quickly. The audience senses it too. This isn't a disagreement anymore. It's a showdown, and neither of them is backing up. Joy's eyes narrow. "You know, Steve, if you're going to make claims like that on live television, you should be prepared to back them up." "I've already backed them up," Steve says calmly. "You just ain't ready to hear it." Joy laughs under her breath. "Oh, please, you're acting like you've got some big revelation." Steve tilts his head. "You want one?" Joy freezes for a split second, just long enough for the cameras to catch it. "I'm not afraid of anything you have to say," she replies. Steve lets the silence stretch just long enough to feel like tension tightening across the room. "All right then," he says. "Let's talk about how you treat your own staff." Joy's lips press together, a crack in her armor. Steve gestures lightly toward the backstage area. "You think those folks back there don't talk? You think they ain't got stories? You think just 'cause people laugh with you on set, they laugh when you ain't around?" Joy forces a smile, but her jaw muscles flex. "This is ridiculous." Steve shakes his head. "No, what's ridiculous is you acting like you, the only one on this stage allowed to ask hard questions." Joy sits up straighter. "I didn't ambush you. I asked you about behavior you have demonstrated." "Joy," Steve says, looking directly at her. "You tried to embarrass me." Joy scoffs. "Oh, stop. You're not that fragile." Steve's voice drops lower, not softer, but deeper, firmer. "This ain't about being fragile. It's about respect. Something you want from everybody, but won't give back." The audience murmurs, surprised, uneasy, hooked. Joy gestures with her hands. "You're twisting this entire thing. I was just asking a question." Steve raises one eyebrow. "A question that wasn't on the cards. A question your producers didn't approve. A question you waited to throw at me until the camera was right up on my face." Joy's breathing grows heavier, not loud, but visible. I don't need anyone's permission to speak my mind. No, Steve agrees. You don't. But don't act like it ain't calculated. Joy leans in. You want to talk about calculated? You have entire teams managing your public image. You're practically a brand, Steve. Steve smirks. And you're practically a storm that don't know when to quit. Joy slams her cue card down a little harder than she meant to. The flat smack echoes. One of the panelists places her hand subtly on Joy's arm, a gentle warning. Joy ignores it. Let's be real, Steve, she says. If I made you uncomfortable, that says something about you, not me. Steve laughs. Just one quick breath, like a spark. You ain't make me uncomfortable. You made yourself exposed. Joy's nostrils flare. Exposed? How? Because, Steve, who owns the room and knows it. A stagehand whispers, We're live in 10, 9, 8. Steve straightens his jacket, but doesn't smile. He's too still, too controlled. Joy, unaware of the storm she's seconds from stepping into, glances toward him with a smirk, like she already has her first jab loaded and ready. The countdown hits 0. Camera 3 sweeps forward. Applause kicks up. The signature show theme plays under the roar. Steve steps out onto the stage, light bouncing off his lens-black sunglasses, shoulders squared like a man walking into a courtroom. But this isn't a courtroom. This is a collision course. Joy leans back in her seat, tapping her cue card on the table, pretending to fan herself. Well, look who finally made it, she says, before the audience has even quieted down. We thought you were still stuck in the dressing room negotiating your lighting. A ripple of laughter, some forced, some nervous. Steve stops mid-walk, slowly removes his sunglasses, and folds them with deliberate precision. He doesn't smile. He doesn't blink. Joy? He says, voice deep, steady, unhurried. You sure you want to start something before I even sit down? The air tightens. The other panelists exchange a whoa, okay glance. Joy shrugs in exaggerated innocence. Oh, relax, Steve. We're just having fun. It's television. You know, entertainment. You're familiar with that concept. More laughter. Steve finally reaches the table, pulls out his chair, and sits down. But his posture carries the weight of someone settling into a conversation he already knows won't stay civil. Camera 1 zooms to Joy's face. She's smiling, but her jaw is locked. She taps her pen twice. Tap, tap. A tiny tell. Steve sets the cue card down without even looking at it. All right, he says. Let's talk about why I'm really here. Joy crosses her legs, shifts her weight, and leans forward like a prosecutor preparing for cross-examination. Yes, let's. Because I've been waiting to ask you a question that America deserves an answer to. The producer in the control room jolts upright. What question? He whispers to the assistant beside him. That's not in the script. What is she doing? The assistant shakes their head. She didn't clear anything with us. Camera 2 snaps to Steve's face. His eyebrow lifts barely. America deserves an answer? Now you got me curious. Joy inhales, a slow, dramatic breath, and then fires. You've been lecturing people for years about behavior, morals, decisions. But when is the last time you held yourself accountable for the way you treat people backstage? Because from what I hear, off-camera Steve Harvey is very different from the family man persona you put on TV. The audience gasps. The sound isn't just surprise. It's shock mixed with thrill. They were expecting a light daytime segment. Instead, they're witnessing a public ambush. Steve doesn't flinch. Camera 4 goes to a wide shot, catching the panelists shifting in their seats, unsure whether to intervene or let the wildfire burn. Steve says nothing at first. He simply looks at Joy as though she's just thrown a match at him and is now waiting to see if he'll ignite. Joy continues, emboldened by silence. I mean, come on, Steve. People talk. Crew members talk. This isn't the 90s. You can't just yell at staff and expect... Steve suddenly raises one hand. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just decisive. The studio goes still. Joy, he says quietly. You want to do this with me? On live TV? Right now? Joy forces a laugh, even though her voice trembles at the edges. I'm just asking a question. Nah, Steve replies. You're trying to score a moment, trying to get your little viral clip for tomorrow morning. Even the audience stops breathing. Steve leans back, folds his arms, eyes locked on her. Let me tell you something. You invited me here. I didn't ambush nobody. I came to talk about my new project, but you decided to turn this into a hit job. Camera 3 cuts to Joy. Her smile slips for half a second, then she pastes it back on. Steve, nobody's attacking you, she says. I'm just being honest. Steve nods slowly. All right. You want honesty? Let's be honest. He leans forward, voice dropping so low it forces the entire studio to lean in to hear it. You're real good at throwing punches, so let me ask you something. How come every time somebody disagrees with you, you treat it like a personal betrayal? How come you can dish it out but you can't ever take it? Joy blinks. Hard. Her pen stops tapping. Steve continues. See, you like to call it being outspoken. I call it trying to control the whole damn conversation. Joy lifts her chin. I control nothing. I'm a host. It's my job to challenge guests. Steve shakes his head. No, it's your job to listen too. But you don't do that part, do you? Joy shifts her chair just an inch, enough for the audience to feel the tension tighten. You're exaggerating, she says. Steve laughs once, loud, sharp. A cutting sound. Joy! You literally ambushed me on camera 15 seconds after I walked out. You didn't want a conversation. You wanted a moment. Camera 1 moves closer, reading Joy's micro-expressions, jaw clench, nostrils flare, eyes narrowing to slits. You know what? She says. Maybe I did want a moment, Steve, because I don't like the way people treat staff in this industry. And from what I was told, Steve's voice rumbles through the studio like a warning. What you were told isn't the truth. Joy fires back instantly. Oh, please, Steve, don't even... Joy, he says, staring directly at her. You better be real careful with what you repeat on national television, because repeating gossip ain't the same thing as telling the truth. The audience shifts, murmuring. Steve lowers his voice even more. And you know it. Joy opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Her throat tightens. She grips her pen tighter. A crack forms. You can see it. Steve doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't yell. He just cuts through the air with a calmness that's somehow louder than shouting. You come at me with gossip. I come back with facts. Joy swallows. Which facts? Steve leans in until they're eye to eye. You treat your own staff worse than anybody in this building. A shockwave hits the audience. Joy's face drains of color. I've spoken to people, Steve continues, and trust me, they ain't scared to tell the truth when you ain't around. Joy's breath catches. That's ridiculous. Steve cuts her off. You don't yell, you don't scream, you don't curse. No, you do something worse. Joy freezes. You embarrass people, make jokes at their expense, humiliate them just to get a reaction. Camera 3 zooms in on Joy's trembling lip. Her confidence falters, just briefly, before she forces a shaky laugh. That's called comedy, Steve. That ain't comedy, he replies softly. That's cruelty. Her laugh dies instantly. The audience senses something shift. The balance of power flips. Fast, clean, final. Joy breathes in through her nose, trying to recover control, trying to reassert dominance. But Steve is already leaning back, calm again, hands folded neatly on the table, like a man who knows he just turned the tide. You wanted honesty, Joy, he says. Don't be mad now that you got some. Joy grips the edge of the table. She doesn't blink. She doesn't speak. She's stunned, silent for the first time all day. The set is so quiet you can hear someone cough 3 rows back. Steve finally turns to camera 1. Let's continue the show, he says. And the moment breaks. Applause bursts out. Hesitant at first, then louder, then thunderous. The audience doesn't even know why they're clapping. They just feel the seismic shift, the collision they weren't prepared to witness. Joy stays frozen, staring at Steve like she's trying to find her footing again. She can't. Not yet. Not after that. And the show is far from over.